There is a phone that never gets to sleep. It belongs to the one person in the family everyone calls when something goes wrong. Not the parent, not the oldest, just the one who always answers. He's answered it for a sister's divorce, for a father's diagnosis, for a brother who needed bail money and later needed him to pretend he never asked. Every family has one of these people. You might be one of them right now. They're not the golden child. They're not the black sheep. They're something the family doesn't even have a name for, because if they gave it a name, they'd have to admit what it's costing. We call him the strong one. And this is the story of what happens when the person holding everyone else together has no one holding him. This isn't a story about weakness, it's a story about what strength turns into when nobody ever asks it to rest. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to look at the reliable one in your family, maybe yourself, completely differently.
Meet Daniel. On paper, Daniel has it together. Stable job, steady marriage, a calendar full of other people's problems, color-coded so he doesn't lose track of whose crisis is whose. His mother calls him first when her back pain flares up. Not because he's a doctor, but because he's the one who will actually drive her to the appointment and sit in the waiting room without making her feel like a burden. His younger sister calls him when her marriage gets loud, not to ask for advice, but to be talked down, gently, the way he's talked her down since she was 14. His father, a proud man who has never once said the words, "I'm proud of you," or "I need help," calls Daniel only when it's serious, and it's often serious. Daniel is 38 years old. He has been in this role since he was 11. Because here's what nobody tells you about kids who grow up in unstable homes, some of them rebel, and some of them, the Daniels, do the opposite. They become hyper-competent, hyper-calm. The 11-year-old who learns to read a room before he learns long division, because his safety depends on knowing which version of his parents is walking through the door tonight. He didn't choose this, he was cast in it, and he was so good at the role nobody, including him, ever considered there might be another one available. Fast forward 27 years, and Daniel doesn't just answer the phone at 2 a.m. He's become the family's emotional infrastructure, the load-bearing wall nobody thinks about, because it's never once given them a reason to. Ask his family to describe him and you'll hear the same 3 words over and over: he's so strong. He always knows what to do. I don't know what we'd do without him. They mean it as a compliment. It's actually a life sentence. Because nobody in that dinner asked Daniel a single question about his own life. Nobody noticed he'd lost weight. Nobody clocked the joke he made twice about being tired that landed, both times, in silence. Not because they don't love him. Because he has never once given them a reason to worry about him. And a family, like any system, will always direct its attention toward the loudest problem in the room. Daniel has spent 27 years making sure he was never that. Here's the question we're going to sit with for the rest of this video. What happens to the person who holds everyone else's pain when nobody's holding his? And more importantly, if you recognize someone you love in Daniel's story, or if you recognize yourself, what does it actually cost to be the strong one? And is there a way out that doesn't mean letting everyone down? That's next. Daniel will go inside in a minute. He always does. But before he does, let's stay out here in the driveway with him a little longer, because what's happening inside Daniel right now isn't a personal failing, and it isn't random. It has a name. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. At Connection Collective, we call this pattern generational stewardship. Here's the idea. In its simplest form, every family is a system, and every system, whether it's a business, an ecosystem, or a household, has roles that need filling in order to keep functioning. Someone has to hold the peace. Someone has to manage the crisis. Someone has to be the emotional shock absorber when things get unstable. In a healthy family, these roles rotate. They're shared. A parent steadies a child today. That child, grown, might steady a parent decades later. The weight moves. It's passed hand to hand, and no single person carries it alone for a lifetime. But in families shaped by instability, addiction, unpredictability, unresolved trauma, chronic conflict, something different happens. One person gets assigned the role permanently, and it happens so early and so quietly that it looks like personality. It looks like that's just who he is. It looks like nature, not nurture. That's generational stewardship, the unspoken family tradition of handing the emotional weight of the household to one designated carrier, and that carrier holding it silently, sometimes for the rest of their life. It is not a diagnosis. It is not a flaw in Daniel's character. It is a role, and roles, unlike personalities, are inherited. So where did Daniel's role come from? Not from nowhere? Look one generation back, and you'll almost always find the blueprint. Daniel's grandfather, the man who raised Daniel's father, was very likely the strong one of his generation too. Maybe he came home from a war he never spoke about. Maybe he grew up during hardship that taught him one unbending lesson: needs are dangerous, and the only safe thing to be is useful. Maybe he buried a parent too young, or carried siblings through a house that had no adult steady enough to do it. Whatever his story was, he likely learned the same rule Daniel would learn decades later. Love, in this family, is expressed through capability. You are valued for what you carry, not simply for who you are. And here is the part that matters most. He didn't hand this down to Daniel's father by telling him a story. He handed it down by living it in front of him. Daniel's father grew up watching his own father hold the family together through sheer will, watching stoicism get rewarded with respect, watching vulnerability get met with silence or subtle disappointment. So when Daniel's father became a parent himself, he didn't need to say, "Be the strong one." He simply modeled what strength looked like, and unconsciously, he began looking for a child in his own household who could carry the same weight he once watched his father carry. That child was Daniel, not because Daniel was chosen with cruelty. In most cases, no one chooses consciously at all. It's more like water finding the lowest point. The family's instability flows toward whichever child shows the earliest signs of composure, competence, or calm under pressure. That child gets quietly, invisibly promoted. And once promoted, the role rarely gets reassigned. Families don't tend to ask, "Has this gotten too heavy for you?" They tend to ask, "Can you handle this too?" Daniel could, so he did, just like his father did, just like his grandfather did before that. This is the reframe we want you to sit with. Daniel is not simply a strong person. Daniel is the current custodian of a role that has likely existed in his family for 3 generations or more, a role built brick by brick out of other people's unspoken pain and handed to him before he was old enough to understand what he was accepting. He didn't inherit a personality trait, he inherited a job, and like any job held without boundaries, without relief, and without anyone checking in on the person doing it, it will eventually cost him something. The question is no longer, why is Daniel like this? The real question is, what does it take to finally set an inherited weight down without believing that putting it down means abandoning the people you love? That's what we're going to answer next. Here is what a role like Daniel's actually costs, not in theory, but in the body and in the marriage, over time. On his health, the body keeps a ledger, even when the mind refuses to. Chronic emotional over-responsibility doesn't feel like trauma from the inside. It feels like tension headaches. It feels like a tight jaw he stopped noticing. It feels like being a little tired for 11 years straight. Cortisol doesn't care that Daniel has a good reason to be stressed. It accumulates anyway. On his marriage, this is the quieter casualty, and often the most painful one. A man who spends his emotional bandwidth managing his birth family often has none left over for the family he's building. His wife doesn't get his full presence. She gets whatever is left after everyone else has been triaged. Over time, she stops competing for it. Resentment doesn't usually arrive loudly. It arrives as distance, as fine, as two people at the same table, in two different rooms. And here's the cruelest part of the cost. Daniel can't even name it as suffering, because on paper, he's succeeding. He's needed. He's capable. He's holding it all together. But being needed and being nourished are not the same thing. A role can look like strength on the outside and function like slow erosion on the inside. Left unaddressed, this doesn't resolve on its own. It tends to end one of two ways: a health crisis that forces the system to finally function without him, or a quiet, sudden burnout where the strong one simply stops answering the phone. And nobody understands why. There is a third way, and it starts now. In Book 2, we outline the framework for how someone in Daniel's position begins to set the weight down, not by abandoning their family, but by returning the family to health. Here are the first 3 steps. Step 1. Name the role out loud. You cannot renegotiate a job you've never admitted you're doing. Most strong ones have never once said the sentence, even to themselves, "I have been carrying this family's emotional weight since I was a child, and no one ever asked if I wanted to." Naming it isn't self-pity. It's the beginning of stewardship becoming a choice instead of an unspoken debt. There's an old and steady piece of wisdom worth remembering here. Even those called to serve and to carry others were also called to withdraw, to rest, to be poured into, not to pour endlessly from an empty vessel. Stewardship was never meant to mean self-erasure. Step 2. Distinguish between capacity and obligation. Ask, honestly, of every task you carry for your family, am I doing this because I'm the only one who can, or because I'm the only one who ever has? Those are very different problems. One is a genuine capacity issue. The other is a role that has simply never been questioned. Most of what strong ones carry falls into the second category, not because their family is cruel, but because no one has ever offered to renegotiate it, and the strong one has never asked. Step 3. Set the boundary without the apology tour. This is the step that terrifies most people in Daniel's position because of one deeply held fear. If I set a boundary, the whole family will fall apart. Here is the truth Book 2 spends an entire chapter unpacking. A family system that can only function through one person's total self-sacrifice was never stable to begin with. It was only ever quiet. Boundaries don't destabilize a healthy system. They only destabilize a system that was relying on someone's silent overextension to survive. That's an important distinction, because it reframes what happens next. It isn't collapse, it's correction. Practically, this looks like delayed responses, not instant ones. Letting a call go to voicemail once in a while, even when you're available. This alone begins retraining the system's expectations. Specific, not sweeping. Limits, not "I can't help anymore," but "I can't be the one who drives her to every appointment. I can help find someone who can share this with me." Redirecting, not just refusing. "I love you, and I'm not the right person to fix this one. Have you talked to someone who could actually help? A counselor, a doctor, a mediator?" This keeps compassion intact while returning the responsibility to where it belongs. Tolerating the discomfort of disappointing someone without immediately repairing it. This is the hardest and most important skill of all, because for a strong one, someone else's disappointment has always felt like an emergency. It isn't. It's just a feeling. It will pass. For them, and for you. The goal was never for Daniel to stop caring for his family. The goal is for Daniel to become one voice in the family's system instead of its entire foundation, so that if he ever needs to step back, get sick, grieve, or simply rest, the whole structure doesn't come down with him. That is what it actually means to be strong. Not carrying everything alone, but building something sturdy enough that it no longer requires you to. A few weeks later, Daniel's phone rings again. It's his sister. Nothing is wrong this time. She just wanted to talk. He listens. He laughs at the right moments. And when she starts to spiral into a smaller complaint about their mother, Daniel, gently, without guilt, says something he's never said before in his life. "I hear you. I'm not going to be the one who fixes this one, though. Have you told her that directly? Yeah. Okay, fair. That's it. No explosion, no fallout. The family didn't collapse. What changed wasn't Daniel's love for his family. It's still exactly as deep as it always was. What changed is that Daniel stopped mistaking self-erasure for devotion. He learned that he could stay close to the people he loves without being the only thing holding them up. He didn't stop being strong. He just stopped being strong alone. If Daniel's story felt familiar, if you've spent years being the one everyone calls, the one who never gets called about, we want you to hear this clearly. You are not too much for needing rest, and you are not selfish for wanting to be cared for too. This is exactly the terrain we built Book 2 to walk you through. Family. The Ties That Bind and Sometimes Break is the second book in the Human Connection series, and it was written for exactly this moment. Inside, we go far deeper into the generational stewardship framework you just learned, how these roles form, how they pass silently from grandparent to parent to child, and most importantly, how to step out of an inherited role without stepping away from the people who need you. You'll find the full boundary-setting framework for strong ones, real case studies like Daniel's, and a practical path for finally putting down a weight that was never meant to be carried by one person for an entire lifetime. If you spent your whole life being the strong one for everyone else, this book was written to finally be strong for you. There's an old truth that holds up across every generation, every family, every Daniel who's ever picked up a phone at 2 a.m. out of love. You were never meant to carry it all alone. Even the strongest hands need somewhere to set the weight down. This has been the Human Connection series from Connection Collective. If this story was for you or for someone you love, go check the link in the description, and we'll see you in the next one.